Hey, well, we are so excited today to have Janica joining us from HIP Humanity in Practice. And we are just chatting about your fundraising and some of the things that you've been up to these days, but in particular, some fundraising that you've been doing through Trellis. It's so nice to have you here. Do you mind telling us a little bit about your role and your organization before we jump in?
Sounds good. Thanks, Rebecca, for having me. So I am founder and executive director for Humanity in Practice. We've been around since 2005. We started out as an opportunity for children under the age of 12 to be able to volunteer from the safety of their home or their classroom without the supervision of a parent. So those altruistic little feelings where there was no opportunity. And we've grown since where we are micro volunteering, which is the new buzzword, I guess, but we are all about micro volunteering. So simple acts of kindness that you can do from anywhere at any time to help those in need.
Amazing. What has been some of the your favorite ways that you've seen micro volunteering displayed in the last little bit here?
My favorites are always when you have a variety of opportunities to ensure that whatever is of interest to the volunteer happens. So one of our schools, their children, students absolutely love animals. And so their favorite, and we have a variety of different ways to help and a variety of issues to support. So animals in shelter is one of their favorite. And what I love about this one is that they have incorporated in their cooking curriculum how to make dog treats. And so every year, their school classroom makes dog treats. So they're making little treats. So they're learning how to cook in the classroom, but they're also supporting all these little animals in shelters. So that's kind of one of them. Another one we have is our seniors. We have a whole bunch of seniors who, yes, they're in a retirement community or a lodge and not able to get out into the community, but still want to be able to help. And so we have a group of knitters, male and female, and they knit. And so every year we are able to, we receive 300 or more pieces of like mittens or scarves or toques, and we give those to an event called Gear Up, which happens every November here in Calgary. And it's all about resources for street connected youth. So our role in that event is to ensure that everyone goes home with toque or mitt.
I love that. And I love just how simple you're making it for people to volunteer and to participate and to give back to their communities. But the impact of some dog treats being made for a local shelter or having some toques and mitts all knitted up, like the impact of that is just so big. And I love how simple fundraising and volunteering can be in that regard.
Yes.
That's awesome. I love that. So, maybe let's go back to the beginning though, and just talk a little bit around fundraising specifically and what that's looked like at HIP. But what were you doing before you started engaging with us here at Trellis?
So, well, pre-COVID, like many, we always had an in-person gathering, and that was it. We wanted to do something different just before. So we asked our donors, do you really want an in like a gathering where everybody gets together face to face and it's your typical silent auction and yada yada. And and our donors, our guests said, yes, this sometimes I see these people only once a year. I want to get together. So we're like, oh, all right, well, they have spoken. So pre-Trellis, our entire fundraising was our donors around this one event. And it's supported. We are a small grassroots organization, so not like there was a huge budget to require, so it was sufficient. But then we wanted to grow because people aren't catching on as quickly as we do micro volunteering. So let's grow bigger and get out there more often and bring on more agencies. And so we did that, and we were really fortunate to get in with the Shaw Birdies for Kids program presented by AltaLink. So we're really grateful that we've been in that. So between our one event and Birdies for Kids, that was kind of all we did until 2 years ago. We decided we need to start diversifying and bringing in new donors, and how do we do that? And it was around that time where I ended up taking a course, and I think it was through Community Village. I'm not sure. I should know that. But anyway, that course introduced me to this organization called Trellis and what they might be able to do for us. So I signed up for a demo.
That's awesome. I love that. And so then you first heard about us. What kind of piqued your interest in terms of what we were doing? I mean, also mid-pandemic, this is when everybody was really unsure where to even go or where to even start. Was there something in particular that kind of drew your attention to our platform?
Yeah, well, I think like with everybody, it was like, how do we raise money when we can't sit in the same room together? So we really were looking for something that was different, so online. And we actually had one of our events volunteers say to us, like years before, why aren't you doing it online? You're not staying up with the, that's the up and coming thing is online auctions, and why aren't you thinking about doing that? And truthfully, it's kind of scared us. We kind of scared us old ones. We're like, do we do that? Would our donors like that? They just finished telling us they want to be in person, right? So that took care of that. We couldn't be in person, so that gave us the opportunity to go, well, let's try and see how we could incorporate it, that it's online right now. And then when we can get back together, maybe we can do both so that they're in line, but the ones that don't want to attend can be online, right?
Totally. No, I love that. Okay, so then you decided to jump in and to jump first, feet first into some online fundraising. What did your first fundraiser look like? And tell us a little bit about a particular partnership that you tried to, or that you also explored simultaneously.
Mm-hmm. Well, when we decided that Trellis is definitely what we want, we were invited by another organization, and we're all about collaboration. So we had another organization we worked with in the past came up to us, N Step, and she had this brilliant idea to do an event, live event, now that we can, and let's get that started. So what we jump in together, we would share expenses, we'd share profit. It was a brilliant plan, and so then the first question was, okay, so here's the event, we got it planned, where are we selling tickets? So our first initial idea was where what we need an online, and yes, we've gone with Eventbrite all the time, but we were thinking we also wanted this auction component of the event. And the only reason why we thought of online auction at that point was because the event place and the theme of the event that we wanted to do didn't allow for tables for auction items. So we're like, okay, so we could have our live event here, do an online auction that our guests can. So we thought it was going to work out really well. So that's where the learning began, because then it was like we had our committee, we had several people from several different, yes, we're just collaborating with one organization, but on the committee they each had their own networks, so everybody had their own supplier and everybody had their own service and everybody had their own ideas, which was great. And me being the chair of that committee, it fell on me to go, okay, I'm going to take all your ideas and go back to the drawing board and research, so next meeting I can tell you what I discovered, right? So that's where we started going. I like Trellis. I like Trellis because the things that were they're offering, and the ease of it, and the design of it, and then at one of our meetings they threw in, let's do a raffle too, and I'm like, oh my god, so we got a live event, an online auction, and a raffle. So then I'm going back to the drawing board going, okay, so which one? Okay, so we could buy tickets here, but then we'd have to do a raffle here, but they don't do anything else, so we'd have to do this. So then it just ended up where I went back to the team and said, okay, Trellis does it all. They do it all. So, and that went into a conversation about, well, how much should they charge to do it all? And so at the end of the day, we chose Trellis because of the services that you were offering, and the price was competitive. Yeah.
It's awesome. And so you guys have decided to jump in, you're using Trellis. What kind of results did you see? Was it what you were anticipating? Was there any surprises along the way? Did you notice any of your fundraising drivers tend to do better than the other? What did that look like?
Mm-hmm. Well, because we were working with our standard donor base, and they've never done an online auction, they've always been in person, so that was interesting. Yeah, we hmm, it was good. I mean, I think learning was our most difficult thing, but we we really had a whole new look and including our feedback from our donors, which we asked, was a whole new look around. This was easy. This was easy. Now, I have to throw in there that we ended up canceling our live event just because, again, learnings, right? It's you can't book a night that wasn't conducive to your volunteers getting there and your families, and then it was a football game. Who knew? I'm not into that. So my bad. That was big learning. So we shrunk it. So now we've got an online auction and a raffle. And so from that thing, then yeah, the feedback from our guests that we did the online auction was how simple it was, how fun it was, which I thought was interesting. We I they love the idea that they could just put in like how much they wanted to bid max, and then go into a meeting and not have to worry about it, which we've never been able to do before. So that whole idea gave a new interest to our donors, but it also gave a really kind of cool idea for getting more. So we had new people come that wouldn't have come to our event, but heard about through a friend and said, "Oh, well, I stay at home and go online." So that was very neat. Kind of proved what our volunteer had told us would happen.
Totally. And I love that. I think with in-person events, there's although a fantastic way to connect with individuals and bring people together, there is also this extra barrier for new people to sometimes join because they're taking another bigger step out of their comfort zone. But for an individual who's just heard about your organization or has been recommended your organization by a friend to come to a page, take a look at what you've got going on, maybe buy a raffle ticket for $10 or $20, or bid in one or two items that they're really interested in. Those barriers to entry are just that much lower. And what I love is hearing the stories of organizations that saw we had this many new donors or participants, engage in our fundraiser. And a year later, these are all people that are now feeling comfortable to come to an in-person event, or are looking at different ways that they can start micro volunteering, or they're finding new ways that they can share this initiative with those in their community because they've had those smaller and easier touch points to kind of get them through the door.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was a neat learning for us. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's also just kind of fun to see that, right? And it's there's such a big shift between we went from purely in person, purely virtual, purely hybrid, and now we're like, okay, where's everybody falling? And every organization is approaching it differently. And so it is really cool to see those learnings and kind of what's working best for people. And
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes what's working the best for your organization isn't working the same way for the one down the street, right? And so even being so close in proximity, we often take different approaches, which I love.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As you now think about what's next for the organization and think about, how you keep moving forward with your fundraising, what does that currently look like for you?
Well, we're staying with Trellis. That was a pretty simple one. The committee did talk about bringing back the live event. So we're going to and just internal. I'm like, okay, if you want to do a live event, then when are we going to do it and how? And so between being small, between everybody's schedule, we're not doing it this year. We're going to stay with online. It worked well. Let's learn more. We went small. We only went 12 items when we first did our silent auction because I thought I have no idea how this is going to work.
Yeah.
So I just had envisioned lots of problems, and had none. So that was brilliant. So we're talking about doing like a live event next year, and then just growing on what we learned this spring with Trellis and an online service, just doing that kind of bigger and better for the holiday fundraiser that we always have around November. So yeah, so that's what we're going to do. We're excited about too, making it just being able to promote taking the feedback that we had and our learnings and just being able to promote it to more kind of a really fun, just like a fun event. Yeah, yeah.
Totally, yeah.
Instead of just an
Yeah,
online auction.
seeing how it grows. I love that. Yeah, and what I love and feedback that I often get too is, at an organization level, you take what you've learned, you talk to your donors, you talk to your volunteers, and you talk to the others on your committees to hear what did we do? How did it go? And how could we do better next year? And so a bit of a plug here, but I think that's something that we've really tried to embody at Trellis too. And so we often say to organizations just like yours, like, give us that feedback, let us know what we can do to support you. And so I'm excited for you to come back this coming fall because one of the features we're really excited about is some new um, tools that we have that are going to help you raise more for your auctions. So we've just added the ability to donate an auction bid. So when somebody goes to bid in a silent auction, they'll get a little pop-up that says, hey, in the chance that you are not the highest bidder, do you want to donate this amount to the organization instead? And it's just different strategies like that that we can do to help you raise more. The feedback we kept getting from people just like you was people love the max bid, right? They love being able to set a maximum bid and set it and then forget about it and go about with their day. So how can we add more of those pieces? So along
Mhm.
with donating auction bids, the ability to um, allow overtime bidding. So our items that are getting a ton of traction, especially at the very end, those specific items stay open a little bit longer with the whole goal of you can hopefully hit the absolute maximum raised because people have that extra few minutes to throw in some last minute bids
I
as that
love
one
it.
item goes into overtime. So
Yeah, I love that. I know because in our live events, so this is another thing we noticed about online or learned on our live events, people would come to our event to bid on the silent auction items, and they would always say to us, because we always had it in the
yeah,
fall, kind of like so we'd always kind of think, come raise money for a good cause and do your Christmas shopping. That's kind of
yeah,
what we promoted. But anyway, and it worked well. But then our guests would say to me, oh, I can't wait for your event. I get almost all my Christmas presents there. It's such a deal. And I'm like, what do you mean it's a deal? It's a fundraiser. You're supposed to be raising money for me. And she's like, oh, yeah, no, I get like a golf worth $600 for 100. I'm like, oh, you should be putting this.
I know. I'm like, you should be giving me more for this.
So that was what we learned with live events, with our mentality of our gas. And so then online, what we noticed was, so how you always do that, the retail value of your auction items was this
Yeah,
much, this is how much you raised, and what was the difference? Well, on our live events, wow, like, yeah, they got a deal. This one, no, the bridge was
yeah.
really closer, which
Well,
was thrilling for me, right? Yeah.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it is really cool. I mean, you do kind of have to test it to a certain extent of let's just test it and see are we going to be closer or is there going to be such a big gap? So that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Well, I have one last question for you. And that is how likely are you to recommend Trellis or for somebody that's listening to this right now, why should they take action and move forward with a fundraising platform like ours?
Oh gosh. Well, Rebecca, we've already been recommending you as we went along. We're like, oh my God. And then, we collaborate with over 80 agencies in Calgary. So every time, and on the, not just the agencies, the people that are working with that, but we work with their volunteers as well. So, you have that kind of Fabergé effect, I think they call it, where you I had somebody on our events team, and she's actually running her kids sports team, right? Fundraiser. And they do a raffle. And I'm telling her about how easy it was, the raffle. Like, I panicked. With our raffle, I'm like, our first raffle, it's government connected. So I don't want to mess up the government reporting. And so I'm sitting there the night before going, oh my gosh, I'm really concerned about this. And what do I do? And then in the morning, I went to my computer to go, okay, I'm just going to connect with them one more time and ask her what are the next steps. And I said to everybody, I open up my computer, and the first email I get is your raffle is now completed. And then the next email was, here's all your reports to the government to submit. I'm like, so simplicity, like that's what I'm all about, and or try anyway, my very complicated life. And so I love Trellis, that it is so first of all competitive, but second of all, design, like so user friendly for somebody who doesn't know how to create a website. That scares everybody. Don't be scared. It's just blah blah boom and it's done. And then your team is brilliant for connecting with me in the middle of an emergency, or like I never had to wait a couple days for a reply. Never. It was almost immediate or the same day. It was brilliant. So the support when you're concerned, and you're wearing many hats, especially small organizations, you need that to make sure that you're successful in anything, but especially online. Technology is I know it's the thing today, but I hate it. Technology, as we all know, works good until it doesn't, and usually it doesn't. So it was the support, I think, is the big thing that you have there. So you've got this beautiful product, and then you have the support behind the scenes to ensure that your product is out there and functioning well.
That's awesome. I love that. Well, thanks so much. I mean, it has been an absolute privilege working with you and your team in the last little bit here, and I'm excited because I think there's so much more in store that we get to do together. But
Yeah,
thanks so much for joining us, and we will chat soon.
sounds good. Thanks, Rebecca.
Bye.